People always noticed Lena for the wrong reasons. In a crowded room she seemed almost invisible, like a quiet shadow drifting along the edges of other people's lives. She spoke softly, walked carefully, and rarely raised her eyes for long. To most people, she looked like someone who could be pushed aside without resistance. In school, classmates whispered about her behind her back, calling her fragile, timid, and weak. Even teachers sometimes assumed she lacked confidence or ambition. But none of them knew the storms she had already survived, or the silent strength she carried inside her heart. Lena grew up in a small neighborhood where life was simple but often harsh. Her father worked long hours repairing machines at a factory, while her mother stitched clothes late into the night to help pay the bills. Money was always tight, and worry lived quietly in the corners of their small home. Still, Lena's parents tried to give her love and encouragement, telling her that kindness and perseverance mattered more than anything else in life. Lena listened carefully to their words, but the world outside their door rarely rewarded kindness. At school, confidence seemed to belong to other people. Loud voices filled the hallways, confident laughter echoed across classrooms, and bold personalities took the spotlight. Lena, however, kept her thoughts to herself. When teachers asked questions, she usually knew the answers, but hesitation held her back. She feared the judgment of others more than failure itself. A few classmates noticed her silence and mistook it for weakness. Slowly, teasing turned into bullying. The first time it happened, Lena said nothing. A group of students laughed when she stumbled during a presentation. Someone whispered loudly that she looked like she might cry at any moment. The class erupted in laughter, and Lena felt the heat rush to her face. She forced a small smile and finished her presentation quickly, pretending their words didn't hurt. But that evening, alone in her room, the tears finally came. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers continued. Some people ignored her completely, while others made small, cutting remarks that slowly chipped away at her confidence. Lena tried to focus on her studies, telling herself that none of it mattered. But deep inside, a quiet question grew louder each day. Was she really as weak as they believed? One afternoon after school, Lena sat alone on a bench near a quiet park. The sky was turning orange as the sun began to set, painting the clouds with streaks of gold. Children played in the distance while a cool breeze rustled the leaves of the tall trees around her. Lena watched them silently, feeling both small and lost in the vastness of the world. An elderly woman slowly approached the bench and sat beside her. Her silver hair glowed softly in the fading sunlight, and her eyes carried the calm wisdom of someone who had lived a long and meaningful life. She noticed Lena's troubled expression almost immediately. "Sometimes silence carries the loudest pain," the woman said gently. Lena was surprised. She hadn't spoken a word, yet somehow this stranger seemed to understand her feelings. She hesitated before replying, unsure why she felt comfortable enough to speak. "People think I'm weak," Lena whispered. The woman smiled softly, not with pity but with understanding. "And what do you think?" Lena looked down at her hands. She had asked herself that same question many times but had never found an answer. "I don't know," she admitted. The woman leaned back against the bench and looked toward the horizon. "The world often confuses quietness with weakness," she said slowly. "But the strongest mountains are silent, and the deepest oceans make no noise." Those words lingered in Lena's mind long after the woman had left. For the first time, she considered the possibility that silence did not mean weakness. Perhaps strength could exist quietly, waiting for the right moment to rise. That evening, Lena returned home with a new thought planted firmly in her mind. Maybe the world had misunderstood her all along. Maybe she had misunderstood herself. The following days did not suddenly become easier. The whispers still followed her through hallways, and the laughter still echoed in classrooms. But something inside Lena had shifted. Instead of shrinking away from their words, she began observing them carefully. She realized that many of the loudest voices were hiding their own insecurities behind arrogance. Instead of arguing or defending herself, Lena made a quiet decision. If people believed she was weak, she would prove them wrong, not through anger, but through action. She began waking up earlier each morning to study before school. While others wasted time complaining about homework, Lena quietly mastered every lesson. Her notebooks filled with careful notes and thoughtful ideas. Slowly, teachers began noticing the depth of her understanding. At first, the attention made Lena nervous. But something new was growing inside her, determination. Months passed, and her grades rose higher than anyone expected. During a school competition, Lena volunteered to represent her class in an academic challenge. The same students who once mocked her looked surprised when her name was announced. Someone whispered, "She'll never win." Lena heard them, but this time their words didn't break her. Instead, they fueled a quiet fire inside her chest. The competition hall was filled with bright lights and nervous students from different schools. Questions flashed across the screen while the audience watched closely. Lena's heart raced, but she focused on the task in front of her. One by one, she answered difficult questions with calm confidence. Each correct answer brought murmurs of surprise from the crowd. By the final round, the scoreboard revealed something no one had expected. Lena was winning. When the final question appeared, the room fell silent. It was the hardest question of the night, one that none of the other competitors had answered correctly. Lena closed her eyes for a moment and remembered the long mornings she had spent studying alone. She remembered the whispers, the laughter, and the quiet promise she had made to herself. Then she spoke her answer. The buzzer sounded, and the judges confirmed it was correct. The audience erupted in applause. For the first time, the same people who once doubted her looked at Lena with genuine respect. Teachers congratulated her, classmates stared in disbelief, and whispers filled the hall once again, but this time they carried a different message. They had thought she was weak. But something inside her had risen. And this was only the beginning. Because Lena's journey was not about proving others wrong. It was about discovering the strength she had always carried within herself, a strength that had been quietly waiting for its moment to rise and conquer every doubt the world had placed upon her.